sorry. Trying to.
At this time, I hereby call the town hall meeting for Tuesday, April the 22nd, 2025 at 6:30 p.m. to order. Board members, at this time, we have and entertain approval of the agenda. We have a motion by Dr. Seward, seconded by Mr. Owens to approve the agenda. All in favor of that motion, let it be known by the usual sign of aye. Those opposed, ayes have it, motion carries. At this time, we'll now have the invocation and pledge being led by our board member, Ms. Gilliam. Those who care to join in the pledge and in our invocation, please feel free to stay.
Oh, merciful and wise God, we thank you for this day. We bless you for allowing us to come here today on giving us traveling mercy. We thank you for everyone that's traveled near and far. We thank you for everyone gathered here today that we able to do your will and listen to what Congresswoman McClellan has to say. We thank you for this opportunity. We do not take it for granted. In Jesus' name we love you. Amen.
Amen. To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much. At this time, we are so excited and elated to welcome to Brunswick County Congresswoman Jennifer McClellan. Can we give her a hand clap of welcome here in Brunswick County? We'd like to make people feel at home in the South. We're so glad to have her. She's no stranger to us. That's one thing that we can truly say, that she did not get elected and left us. She has been with Brunswick County throughout her tenure in this role, and we thank her for accepting this call on today. We also want to recognize other board members that are with me on tonight, my colleagues, Vice Chair, Mr. Welton Tyler on the end. Raise your hands, Mr. Tyler. He's slow, but he's raising. I don't know if he doesn't want you all to know him tonight or not. Over to my left, we have Dr. Anza Seward, Mr. Reggie Owens, and Mrs. Glenda Gilliam. We thank them for being with us also. We work together as a team, and they say teamwork makes the dream work. And we know that it is true because it's evident that Congresswoman Jennifer McCullough sees the need to be here in Brunswick on today. And we are grateful for that. We also want to welcome your staff. They have done a fantastic job in helping me to make this work. Can you all give her staff a hand as well, Charity, and all of the other individuals that work behind the scenes. You all know behind the scenes really help things go forward, and we're grateful for that. We want to recognize our county staff as well. Our county administrator, Ms. Weddington, is back there. Our economic development director, Ms. Reynolds, is in the back. We have our administrative assistant, Ms. Kim Height right here. Ms. Monica Frisbee, she's there she is, she's in the building. These ladies have been working out on today. Our custodial staff, they're here as well. Raise your hand, Ricky, as well as all of the other, I see some more that are here. They have worked hard to make things happen. I want to say to them, thank you so much. We had a glitch with the AC, and those gentlemen really did what they had to do to try to make you all feel as more comfortable as possible. We're going to also recognize any other elected officials that might be in the House with us on today. We just ask you to stand, all elected officials, because we know that we have elected officials from other counties as well. And thank you all so much for being here. We see you, our town with us as well, so we thank you. We just want to move forward. I know you all are excited about Congresswoman being here. We're not going to prolong the time. We know that you have some burning questions for her. We know that she has the information. We've been receiving so many calls on different issues that are happening in our nation, and we knew that we couldn't give all the answers, but we knew someone that could. So we have her here tonight. You have in your hands, some of you might have filled them out earlier, some cards if you're, because we are going to have open mic after she's done for you to ask any questions, but we are going to do it within a reasonable time. And if for some reason your question does not get answered with you with the mic, we do have these cards. Her staff has already shared with me that you can give them to them at the table, Congresswoman's table that's on the outside of the doors, and they will definitely make sure that you get a response on your questions. And if Congresswoman McClellan said that she's going to do it, she's going to get the answers to you, she's going to get back with you. So we're grateful for that one tonight. So with no further ado, if there's nothing else to come before the board, because we have to still move this meeting as if it is a board meeting official, if there's nothing else that's going to come before them, I would like to just read a little bio on our Congresswoman. As I stated, she's with us often, but you still need to know who she is and whose she is. She is Congresswoman Jennifer McClellan entered into the U.S. Congress in 2023 after winning a special election to replace the late Congressman Donald McClellan. She's a lifelong Virginia native. She's from Petersburg, Virginia. And this walk in service did not just start. Both her mother and her father were service people as well. She was first elected to the Virginia House of Delegates in 2005 and served in that post until she was elected to the Virginia State Senate in 2017, where she succeeded again Donald McClellan after his election to the U.S. House of Representatives. In the current 119th Congress, Congresswoman McClellan sits on the House Energy and Commerce Committee. In the 118th Congress, she sat on the House Armed Service Committee and the House Science, Space, and Technology Committee. Her voice is heard throughout Virginia as a working Congresswoman. McClellan passed over 370 pieces of legislation, including landmark bills to protect and expand voting rights, combat climate change, preserve reproductive health care, and enhance workers' protection and labor laws. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to present to you Congresswoman McClellan.
a limited amount of time, and I want to get to as many as possible, and I want to reiterate what you already heard. If we do not get to your question tonight, if you submit it on the card, we will get you an answer. But I want to just give you a quick overview of some of the things that I have been working on. This is my first, not my first time to Brunswick in the 119th Congress, but it is my first town hall down here. And so very quickly give you an overview of some of the things I did in the 118th of relevance to you all. I think the one that I'm the most excited for is I was able to bring back to Brunswick County in community project funding $500,000 to support the county's industrial site development project to help bring infrastructure improvements to the county. And that's just a good example of some of the things that we do that don't get a lot of attention because it's not legislation, it's not the kind of thing that the national news likes to cover. But we do everything from bringing infrastructure funding to help connect communities to water, sewer, connect the roads, connect broadband, to helping with constituent issues. And so the other thing I want to make sure you all do on your way, actually they're up here, they were out front, but my staff in the district office is phenomenal. And we opened the district office here in Brunswick intentionally because we wanted people to understand whether you live at the top of the district geographically or the bottom of the district, to the left or to the right, that we are here to serve you. And so upstairs, we have a satellite office that is staffed by Sylvia Copeland, I think one day a week on Thursdays and by appointment. We have Charity Howell, my district director, who is like the traffic cop in the district. We have Bianca Casper, who is taking photos tonight. John Montgomery, who does all of our Service Academy nominations. If you know a young person who would like to apply to a Service Academy, John handles all of that. We have Courtney McCargo, who helps out with the district, is out in the hallway. And on maternity leave now, we have Maria Campbell. And I say all of their names because when you call, and Elizabeth Hardin, she's outside, she's still working. When you call, whether it's an issue with the post office, an issue with Social Security, an issue with veterans benefits, these are the folks that work to solve the problems. And I start with that because I ran for office 20 years ago this year when I ran for the House of Delegates. I ran for office to help people and solve problems. I ran for office because as a kid, growing up in Wetumpka, even though I was born in Petersburg, I grew up in Wetumpka. And I always like to say this when I come to Brunswick because I want you to know I didn't just show up in Brunswick when I got elected. But I first showed up in Brunswick to run track. I first showed up in Brunswick to take stats when your basketball team beat ours. But when I was a kid in Wetumpka listening to my parents tell stories about their life, they saw the best of government and they saw the worst of government. And they grew up during the Depression in the Jim Crow South. And they, and a love of history, taught me that at its best, government is a force that helps people and solves problems. And at its worst, it is a force that oppresses some for the benefit of the few. And so as a kid, I decided I want to be part of making government that force for helping people. And that is what I wake up every morning asking myself is how can I help not just the residents of Virginia's 4th District, but across this country. And one thing that I have learned, two things that I have learned in now my 20 years of public service, is whether I'm in a rural area, an urban area, or a suburban area. I represent all three. There's a lot of common ground, whether I'm talking to Democrats, Independents, or Republicans. Everybody wants to know their kid is going to get a good school, a good education, and the ability to do better than they did. Everybody wants to know that they will live in safe, healthy everybody wants to know that if they get sick and they need to go to the doctor, they can get treated and not go back. And so, whether in the state legislature or now in Congress, those are the things that I focus the most on. Now, coming to Congress, last year, or 2 years ago, there were some new issues that I dealt with as a member of the Armed Services Committee. Our military, our veterans are very important to Virginia. And being on the Armed Services Committee, I focused very heavily on quality of life issues for our service members, our military families, and our veterans, because they are willing to make the ultimate sacrifice to keep us safe. The least we can do is make sure that those 3 things I started with, they aren't left out. And I'm proud of the work that I did. I got a lot of things passed in the National Defense Authorization Act last year, particularly focused on quality of life issues, but also readiness and making sure that if our service members have to go in combat, they're ready, and that they come home. Now, I am on the Energy and Commerce Committee. Energy and Commerce deals with everything from healthcare to energy to trade to sports. One of the former chairs used to say, if it moves, it's energy. If it doesn't, it's commerce. And he would point to a map of the globe and he would say, that's our jurisdiction. On that committee, I sit on the energy subcommittee and the communications and technology subcommittee. But we get to sit in on a lot of different other hearings. So I do a lot in the healthcare space. And I say all of that because, I'm somebody, I grew up the child of educators. I'm someone who was part of the sandwich generation until very recently. I'm someone who almost died of childbirth, giving birth to my daughter 10 years ago next week. I'm somebody who had to help my parents as they transition out of this world and into the next. And I've seen what a lot of people in Brunswick, a lot of people in the 4th District, what a lot of people in Virginia and in this country struggle with. And that is how to balance trying to care for your children and your parents at the same time, and everything that comes in between. And that takes me to the next lesson that I have learned, and I'm going to end with that before I open it up to questions. Everybody that I've met, their view on issues, their view on politics, we're not going to talk politics today, we're on the official side, I make that clear, we're going to talk policy and government. The ethics rules do not allow me to talk politics, but everybody's views on policy, everybody's views on the role of government, everybody's views on the issues of the day are based on their life experience and what they know. My life experience is very different from many of you in this room, but in a lot of ways it's the same. And I bring my perspective to work every morning, and I listen to other people's perspectives because I know I don't have all the answers. But working together, we can find answers to a lot of the problems that plague our communities, but only if we work together. So that's why it's important for me to be here. Is to I know you have a lot of questions. I want to answer those questions. Where I don't have answers, I'm going to be upfront and tell you I don't know the answer. Let's figure it out together. And with that, I think we did it about last. Is that how we did it? Or we should just stand up. So I have some cards right here. Now I'm just going to jump right in. I'll read out the question. If you're in the room and you want to stand, feel free. If you don't want to stand, that's fine too. And we have folks not just from here. So I'm going to, hold on, I read that wrong. Okay, so I'm going to start with this one from Amelia Brandner. I worked for the judicial branch, specifically the U.S. Court of Appeals for the 4th Circuit, and judges were held in high esteem and respected. President Trump shows disrespect to them publicly and does not follow their court orders. What can be done regarding disregarding court orders and giving all due process? I'm a lawyer by training and spent 25 years practicing law. When I took my oath of office, on the Bible that my father kept his full tax receipt, I pledged, the first thing in my oath was a pledge to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States. That's the first part of my oath of office. All of it. Particularly the Bill of Rights. Next year, we are going to celebrate the 250th anniversary, not just, we're in the midst of celebrating the anniversary of the American Revolution, but a revolutionary idea of a government by, of, and for the people, where the rights of governing didn't come from God, didn't come from inheritance, but came from the people. Because the people were endowed by their Creator with the inalienable rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And in our Constitution, the Fifth Amendment says, no one, no person will be denied life, liberty, or property without due process. That is a bedrock American principle. And I take it very seriously. Which is why when I see people's due process right trampled, when I see government officials not give due process of law and say what's inconvenient, I remind them that's our job. All of us, the first part of our oath of office is preserve and protect the Constitution. So ultimately, it's going to be up to the courts. And the president has not quite defied the Supreme Court. He has interpreted what the court told him in a different way. And everybody knows what I'm talking about. It's Mr. Kilmar Abrego Garcia, who was taken from his car as he was driving home with his 5-year-old son, deported to El Salvador with no hearing and no trial, admittedly by mistake, alleged to be a member of a gang, but never given the opportunity for a hearing. And the Supreme Court upheld unanimously, said that the government had to facilitate his return from El Salvador. Now the president has said, facilitate is not, or his lawyers have said, facilitate is not an active verb, we just have to help when asked. But the Fourth Circuit, Judge Wilkins, who was very conservative, who was appointed by Ronald Reagan, said, no. That means you have a responsibility to help work to bring them home. That case is now going back to the Supreme Court. So the administration has ignored court orders. Those orders have been on appeal. And so far, when he loses in court, he complies with those laws. If he does not, there is a big question about what we do about it. Because the administrative branch is supposed to enforce the law. So somebody, a court can hold him in contempt. But I don't know what the answer is, other than, if you defy a court order, I think that's grounds for impeachment. But that's a political process. And that requires a majority in the House that will vote to impeach him, and a majority in the Senate that will vote to convict. Ultimately, though, the ultimate check on government is the people. And what I have noticed about this administration, like all administrations, when the people demand that he do something or not do it, often he backs off. So I would say if you were concerned about due process speaking, and this is the number one issue that I have received calls in my office about, from all over the nation. Even Joe Rogan, who I don't agree with on a lot. Joe Rogan recently said on his podcast that if due process is not adhered to, it's dangerous. That is the beginning of tyranny. And so you will hear me be very vocal on this. I signed a letter demanding answers to questions about this particular case, demanding that the Trump administration do something to facilitate his return like he was ordered. And this is probably the number one most dangerous threat to our republic. And I think to that question. Okay, I'm going to try to be shorter, but that one I feel very strongly about. Can you give an update on changes to Social Security that are already occurred, and what else is coming as it relates to the budget? Okay. So first, there are two different tracks going on right now. We are in the 2025 budget year that goes through September 30th. October 1st will begin a new budget cycle. So what's happening right now, even though Congress passed the bills that say, here's how we fund the government, legally, by law, nothing has changed with Social Security. Except the administration has said that they are eliminating online and telephone options for you to make changes to your Social Security accounts, to talk to somebody. And in some places, they're closing Social Security offices. And I think as of this morning, they have not closed any here in the 4th District, but the closest one to you all, I think, is Petersburg. Well, now if you call or try to do your transactions online, they say they're not going to answer the phone. But we keep hearing in different places different ability to do transactions online. So the first thing I'm going to say is, if you have any trouble accessing your Social Security account, making changes to your Social Security account, or contacting anyone in the Social Security Administration, call my office, and we will help. So that's what's happening now. Those are the changes that we're making now. Sometime in the next few months, we are working on the budget for next cycle. The House and Senate Republicans are using a process called reconciliation, which doesn't mean anything to you other than it's a procedural move that lets them get things through the Senate without the filibuster. It effectively cuts Democrats out of the process. They have passed a budget plan that says every committee has to find a certain number of cuts to programs in their jurisdiction to get to about $6 trillion between the cuts and an increase in the debt ceiling of $4 trillion so that they can make the first term Trump tax cuts permanent. I don't know what the specific number is for the committee that deals with Social Security, but most people believe that Social Security cuts are very likely. We're hearing things like they may try to increase the age of retirement. Is the biggest proposal that we hear they might do. The rest of the cuts, though, and I know there will be questions about this, so I'll preempt a little bit. I sit on the Energy and Commerce Committee, as I told you. They told us to find $880 billion in cuts. There's not $880 billion worth of things to cut in our jurisdiction without cutting Social Security. What I think, and again, they we haven't seen these proposals yet, but what we're hearing is they may move to cut the expansion population that was expanded, we here in Virginia expanded, I think, in 2017. That's what we think they're gonna do. We think they're gonna put some work requirements around it. Most people who get who get Medicaid already work, so it's mainly more of a paperwork requirement. These are all things we think are coming, but until we see their proposed budget, we're not sure. But we will probably see their proposed budget in the next 2 weeks. We were told we have a hearing likely May 7th, where we'll hear what's coming to Energy and Commerce, and probably around the same time we'll see whatever they're proposing for Social Security. What are your thoughts on Secretary of Defense sharing information on Signal Chat, and what are you doing to make sure he is held accountable and fired? I signed on to a letter demanding just that. As a member of the Armed Services Committee, whenever I received a briefing or had to talk about anything that could potentially include classified information, and information about airstrikes in Yemen is classified. I would have to go in what's called a skiff. It's a room where you can't take any electronics, you can't take notes. I have to leave my phone, my earbuds, my iPad, anything. My walkie, I don't have one, but if I had an Apple Watch, all of that I have to leave outside the door to keep anybody from hacking into those devices and listening in on those conversations, foreign or domestic. If an enlisted member of the Army did what PFACSF did, they would be fired on the spot. The fact that our national security, highest national security officials in this country are sharing classified or potentially classified information about airstrikes on an unsecure phone and don't even know who's included on the chat is outrageous. And I immediately, when I heard about it, demanded answers and called for Hexa to resign. Now, in interest of full disclosure, I didn't support him getting appointed anyway. He's the least qualified Secretary of Defense we have ever had in American history. I heard enough from his colleagues at Fox News about his behavior there to make me question his judgment. As a Fox News host, let alone Secretary of Defense. So that is another area where I have been very vocal, calling on him to resign. He technically has not done anything impeachable yet, but let's hope that I get to that. Okay. That is all of these. Do we have any additional questions you all want to pass up, or if not, we'll just go out with the microphone. Y'all almost strike me as a shy audience. Somebody else needs to talk. Okay. What safeguards do we have to protect our right to vote and protect our freedom of conscience? And the Constitution. This is an area that's personal to me. I alluded to it already. Thank you for your question. My father had to pay poll taxes to register to vote. My grandfather did too. My great-grandfather had to take a literacy test and find 3 white men to vouch for his character. My mother didn't vote until after the Voting Rights Act of 1965 was passed. And people died to give us the right to vote. The Voting Rights Act, which was passed to enforce the 15th Amendment, was gutted by the Supreme Court in 2013. Since then, There have been many people who have tried to pass a bill to reauthorize it, to strengthen it, to ensure that every citizen has the ability to exercise their right to vote. It is currently illegal for non-citizens to vote. They can be prosecuted for it. There has been very few documented incidences and very few arrests and convictions of anyone violating that law. Not saying there have never been any, but there have been very few. The last bill I voted on before leaving Washington was something called the SAVE Act. The proponent of, no, don't clap for that. I voted yes, let's be clear. The SAVE Act, according to Chip Roy, its sponsor, is designed to prohibit and prevent non-citizens from voting. What it does is require everybody in this room to prove that you are a U.S. citizen before you can register. The only documents that count for that proof cost money. Not your birth certificate. Your birth certificate by itself doesn't count, but that's $12. And you need that birth certificate to get everything else. How many of you have a real ID? That's $43. How many of you have a passport? That's $123. How many of you have a certificate of citizenship? That's $1,200. $1,200. Over $1,200. If you have a military ID, you can use your military ID, but you have to also have your entire service record to show that you are who you say you are and where you are deployed. And what the SAVE Act also did is it eliminated in-person and online registration. That's not in-person. Online and mail registration. So you have to register in person. So if you're military, active duty, stationed away from home, you can't register where your residence is. If you are homebound, disabled, you can't register online or by mail anymore if this passes. And it passes, it hasn't passed the Senate. And if your name is different from where it was on your birth certificate, how many of you are married and changed your name? Right. You would have to present all of the documents that show who you were at your birth, when you changed your name for your marriage certificate, all of that you would have to take with you to register. That, ladies and gentlemen, is a poll tax that is illegal under the 24th Amendment of the Constitution and puts barriers in the way of people registering to vote, let alone exercising the right to vote. Putting the burden on you to prove that you are who you say you are and that you are a citizen. When there is no evidence at all of a rash number of people voting for one of those two who haven't been convicted. So I voted against it. I voted against it. Okay. Do you have any advice for people who have changed their names to ensure they can vote if the SAVE Act passes the Senate? I don't think the SAVE Act is going to pass the Senate, but if it does, those documents that I mentioned, so make sure you have a real ID, a passport, a military ID, a certificate of citizenship. If you have any one of those, but every time you move and re-register, you have to make sure you have that. And if you have problems, if that passes and you have problems getting those documents, my staff can help you get them. But hopefully it won't become an issue. Right, Virginia has some of America's richest history. How do we navigate funding cuts that will decrease employment to National Park Service, museums, etc., and protect the integrity of our state's history? I love this question because I told you I'm here because I'm a history professor. And you don't know where you are and where you're trying to go and how to get there if you don't know where to go. And so it's critically important that we teach everybody our history, but all of it. All of it. I didn't learn about my great-grandfather's literacy test in school. I learned about it from my family. Not everybody learned about it. I didn't learn about the Racial Integrity Act of 1924 that kept Virginians born as late as 1940 from getting a birth certificate. And by the stroke of a pen, kept a lot of Native Virginians from getting birth certificates, and therefore for them, getting those documents that I talked about to be able to vote is hard. I didn't learn that in school. I learned that as an adult. It's very important that everybody learn all of our history, not just in school and not just our children. Because as people who live through that history die off, if it is not taught in school, we don't know who we really are as a people. So museums are important. Historic sites are important. Monuments are important. Because they tell the story of who we are as a people, where we came from, and help us understand where we're going. A lot of our museums, including the one upstairs, are at risk because the administration has cut funding to a lot of humanities-based organizations, including museums. I think Bobby told me you lost already 2 grants.
2 grants, $160,000 since January.
Yeah, so since January, the museum upstairs has lost $160,000. Other museums have lost a lot more. And it's very hard. The best way for at least for me, what sparked a love of history was not reading a textbook. It was going to these places and connecting with people. And it helps put things in perspective, even when it's uncomfortable history. So for me, my kids came up to DC for spring break, and we went to the African American History Museum. And I was struck as I stood in the exhibit talking about the Middle Passage, which I definitely didn't learn about in school. It struck me, somebody survived this. Somebody survived being chained in the bottom of a ship after being stolen from their home. Somebody survived that so that I could be in Washington, D.C. as the first Black woman elected to Congress from Virginia to tell their story. So that put everything in perspective for me. So when days get tough for me, I'm like, you know what? If they can survive that, I can survive this. That's one example of how our history is important. But I think everybody in this room has an example of how in your history, in your family, or your region, or your community, it's not just important to you, it's important to everybody else. Because how did I start? Everybody's life experiences and what they know shapes their view of the world. And if I understand somebody else's perspective and history and life experience and how it shapes their view of the world, it helps me understand them a little bit better and work with them and live with them and love them as my neighbor. So we've got to preserve our history.
Any questions?
Good evening, Congressman McClellan. Number one, I am very proud of you. Number two, I am very proud of the Commonwealth of Virginia. I'm a lifelong citizen and resident. And Brunswick County is one of the most beautiful counties in this Commonwealth. I have lived all over the state of Virginia, and I've decided that I'm going to die here. No time soon. Yeah, I'm pushing for 120. But I am a part of a couple of organizations, a couple of few. One is Virginia Interfaith Power and Light. which is concerned with the environment and what is going on in our, and of all days for you to come, Earth Day, happy Earth Day. So that is one of the things that I have been speaking with the citizens of Brunswick County about, and if they have issues, what it is that I can do to, what it is I would like to hear to take those issues to our organization. The other is Brunswick Health Ambassadors. Our co-chairman is here today. I was appalled to know about the disparaging health concerns of Brunswick County as compared to other counties in Virginia. And I won't say we, because I'm not going to put anybody else on the spot, but I believe that there is a connection between environmental devastation and the health of the citizens of Brunswick County. So my question is, how can I and we help you address those concerns that we have?
Thank you for that question. Science shows there is a connection. Whether it's air pollution that makes you more likely in an area to have asthma, whether it's the increasing temperatures and the impact on your individual health, water, all of that. What you're putting in your body, there is a direct correlation between pollution and health, between the health of the planet and the health of employees. And there are lots of things that we can do, and lots of things we need to do. And from energy to agriculture, we need to use more renewable and clean energy generation sources that will not pollute the air. And they're getting easier and cheaper to roll out, and we're rolling them out faster than ever before. And we need them to meet our growing energy demand. I talk to a lot of farmers who want to use more sustainable practices that don't destroy the soil, both from a health and environmental stewardship perspective, but also from an economic perspective. But they need the training and the resources and the tools to do that. So every aspect of our lives, we need to shift to more sustainable use of our planet. So we don't have another one yet that we can move through. And there are a lot of ways we have and can continue to do that.
Hi.
Hi.
I have a 31-year-old son who is a premature triplet, and he's at Hiram Davis Medical Center in Petersburg. His facility is slated to close with a job loss of 160 healthcare jobs. They propose to only have 10 beds in Chesapeake. I'm from Amherst County, so I traveled 2.5 hours to visit him. I'm glad I could work in this town hall tonight. But I feel like healthcare is under attack. Nursing home quality is under attack. The private equity takeover of nursing facilities is very profit-driven. I'm also concerned about the tariffs because so much of healthcare is imported, even like gloves, masks, gowns with COVID. All that's coming from China. A lot of our over-the-counters are from India. I mean, so much is not manufactured in the United States. Can you address healthcare and tariffs' impact on healthcare?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. I'm very concerned as well. I've learned more about pharmaceutical manufacturing in the past year than I thought I needed to. And we are beginning to bring more manufacturing to the United States, but it takes time. We don't build that. And so in response to COVID, when we saw we were too reliant on foreign supply chains, we really began investing in manufacturing here. But it's been 5 to 10 years, and we're still not done building those facilities. And over 50% of the components that the active ingredients that they get to make those drugs here are imported. So those costs are going up. If there are tariffs on pharmaceuticals, now he hadn't put them on yet. He says he will, but he hasn't yet. So hopefully we can convince him not to. But you're absolutely right. Even here, DuPont and makes a lot of the packaging that you put medical supplies in. They get a lot of their active materials from overseas. The current trade ecosystem is very interdependent, and frankly, that was part of what keeps us safe, because you're less likely to attack a trade partner. And that's part of what's kept the Cold War that's brewing with China from ever getting hot, is because when you're interdependent on each other, you're a little hesitant to attack. I'm very concerned about this trade war. Not only how it's going to affect healthcare, how it's going to affect everything, from toys to groceries to housing, automobiles. And I'm also concerned about what happens when, not if, when China or other countries impose those tariffs here. Last Trump administration, when there were retaliatory tariffs on the United States, it hit farmers very hard. It hit soy farmers very hard. And we had to bail them out. It hit lumber very hard. Soy and lumber, very important here in Brunswick County. And China is waiting. What I hear, in addition to the cost of everything, is I hear our farmers say, I'm very worried that if China enters into a trade agreement with Brazil, and Brazil is buying my soybeans, I'm in trouble. So, most experts agree that the way Trump has rolled out these tariffs is crazy. It's hurting our economy. It's raising the cost of everything. It's making it very hard for businesses to plan. It is freaking out the stock market. And oh, by the way, most people, their retirement is in the stock market. How many employers do you know have shifted from defined contribution pensions? Defined benefit pensions to defined contribution 401ks? It is crazy. And the way Trump justified the tariffs was by declaring an emergency that doesn't exist and overreaching his authority under federal law. And the Senate, on a bipartisan basis, passed a bill to roll that back on Canada, but Mike Johnson won't bring it to the floor for a vote. And I've signed on to bills that would undo this state of emergency and end the tariff. Mike Johnson won't bring it to the floor. We're going to keep fighting.
Good afternoon. I have a question. I have a special needs son. His name is Kingston. He's autistic. Goes to a special school. He gets an IEP. He has waivers. And it's covered under the federal funding. My question is, what is going to happen to his federal funding? And, I got friends on the other side. They were like, oh, nothing's going to happen. Nothing's going to happen. What's going to happen? If you're cutting federal funding for special needs children, that's part of the Department of Education, that means he's included.
Yes. So I started the day, before I came here, I had a roundtable with school division leaders across the county, including here in Brunswick, the school board members and the supervisors. They're very worried about that. And I asked point blank, because here's what they say when the Trump administration illegally signed an order to dismantle the Department of Education. The three biggest jobs of the Department of Education, they don't run schools. They fill gaps. They pay for and have the workforce to train and enforce and make sure that students with disabilities have their civil rights protected and get what they need to learn. They help people who are trying to go to college afford to go to college and get the resources they need to get on track to go to college. And they fund Title I schools. Schools that have high numbers of low-income, special needs children get federal funding to fill those gaps. I point blank asked all 15 of my localities if this federal funding goes away, are you confident the state can fill the hole? They said no. I said, can you fill the hole? They said no. How many of you have heard of the local composite index?
The local what?
The local composite index. Let me tell you how education is funded in Virginia. Virginia has a funding formula that is older than I am, that looks at every locality and says, based on the sources of income that you get, what percentage of your education system can you fund? Doesn't look at what else they have to pay for. Doesn't look at what percentage of special needs children or low-income students they have. It spits out a number. Well, most of that is based on property taxes. And so it'll say, and I wish I didn't write down the number for Brunswick, but it said, I think Prince George, it said you can pay 80% of your public education needs, so we'll pay 20%. That's ridiculous. Prince George cannot fund 80% of their public education needs. And what everybody's worried about is if they send this funding to the state and the state puts it in the funding formula, you are going to make worse disparities that already exist, because Brunswick and Chesterfield County have very different resources and very different needs. So that's what I'm concerned about. I'm very concerned about this. Now the president says that the funding will still go to the schools, but he hasn't said how. He said that the responsibility of the Department of Education will just go to other agencies. They say for students with special needs and Title I resources, they'll go to Health and Human Services. They're right. Health and Human Services, they are not trained to deal with children and children's educational needs. And oh, by the way, Robert Kennedy just fired a quarter of the HHS workforce. So who's going to do it? I filed a bill that would prevent the firing of folks at HHS, but that doesn't solve the education problem. So I don't know is the short answer, how they're going to pay for it, if they are successful in cutting this funding, but they're definitely trying.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I have a question on.
Use the mic, sir. Use the mic.
Just hold it a bit closer.
I have a question on a couple of issues, and some that I really don't believe we are given enough attention to. That's the cuts that are being recommended for the programs like Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, and even veterans benefits. And I don't believe that we're drawing enough attention to the fact that there's an overall plan for this. An overall plan is not only to make those cuts so that we can give tax breaks to people that don't need it, but it's also an effort to privatize these agencies and the benefits that come from them. So much of that has been these goals of many on the right for decades, as far back as the Reagan administration and Newt Gingrich was the Speaker of the House. So I don't believe that enough attention is being paid to this, and I'm just wondering if we have a way to get this information to the populace,
Thank you for that. We're working on it. All right, you put your finger on a big part of the problem. How many of y'all remember when the only way to get information was through TV networks, with maybe 2 local papers and a handful of radio stations? It was really easy to get information out in that world. We're not in that world. I just saw a study that divides the world into news seekers and news receivers. And a majority of Americans, especially under the age of 50, are news receivers. They receive news when they are looking for other things on TikTok, on YouTube, on Reddit, on Instagram, because nobody watches TV. The news seekers they already know, and they are getting this information. But a big challenge for us as elected officials is making sure that more and more people get information where they receive it. And that's a challenge, because I don't always know. I did a teletown hall in February, where we got 11,000 people. On average, I used to get 5. And because 2 of my staffers are on Reddit, they said, oh, Congresswoman, they're talking about your town hall on RVA Reddit. I'm like, what is that? Like in Reddit, what you do to rate restaurants, and they're like, no, people talk about what you're doing all the time. But it never occurred to me, I need to have a Reddit channel. So I'm talking about it all the time, and bringing attention to it. Here's the other challenge we have. Remember, the Fifth Amendment's not the only one under attack right now. The First Amendment is. The First Amendment, the FCC, which is what gives TV stations their and online companies the spectrum to operate, are threatening to take licenses away, and they say things that the president doesn't like. Out the social media, Twitter, all of the things you use on your phone, they use algorithms to push information to you or suppress it. And Elon Musk owns one of the largest social media platforms and is using an algorithm to push out what he wants you to see, not what you want to see. So we're fighting that too. So that's part of why I'm here. Is you all are interested, clearly. You are news receivers or you wouldn't be here. I'm sorry, you're news seekers or you wouldn't be here. But you all know people who need to receive this news. So part of this is so that you can go back and talk about, here's what our Congresswoman is doing, and here's what's happening on the other ways, if you're not already following me on all my socials, you will have brochures that show you how to do that. I do a newsletter once a week that tells you in great detail what the top issues, the one that just went out yesterday, I went in great detail about what's going on with due process and these mass deportations. So there are a lot of people talking about this. And I use the haircutter test. So I get my haircut at the haircutter in Colonial Heights. They service the entire Tri-Cities area. And most of those people are not news seekers. But my stylist tells me every time I come in there, here's what people are talking about. And they're starting to talk about they don't want their Medicaid cut, because a lot of them are on it. Or no people that are. And so it's getting out there, but we need everybody to start.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Everybody that's here.
Right.
Oh, my name is Noah Stokes, and this is my grandson, James Stokes. 7 years, 9 months, and 4 days, we've been fighting for justice for his mother that was dead, found dead, and also his brother that had been out of our household for 7 years and 9 months and 4 days. It was a counselor that went to North Carolina, picked my daughter up, and filed for custody. Nearly 24 hours, they bring the county courthouse and obtained that child. And we spent $46,000. I'm familiar with Senator Coleman and the youth. She was sitting out and provided us an avenue to get it. They didn't move the case from Emporia to Rankin County, Sanitary. Nails at a standstill that come with attorney don't want to sit back and push the button in their case because it's so political. There is no way a guy in little can be in charge of 2 boys, in which I had both of them in my household together. They had lost their mother, and you separate them. And you are the primary person supposed to work on the responsibility of the child. Everybody stepped up. She stepped up from the guy who liked me. She's the assistant commonwealth of the court. The assistant Commonwealth attorney, Nichols, Assistant Nichols, he's the Commonwealth attorney. Patricia Watson, the Commonwealth attorney that was in charge at the time of this happening, she's the judge. So where is fairness for us? You know, now, like I say, that I have been communicating and through Senator Colton, your leadership, she got us to where we are today. Speed of policy and procedures not being followed. This young man here, an A student, but he never get an opportunity to be a child because he's side by side with me, fighting for his mother. And there's been a nation call out within burning that clock and burning the code. There's a TV topic on YouTube. Let's talk about it with burning the code and burning that clock, inspiration and justice come late. When justice comes late. Every last 4 weeks, we've been on TV advertising this case. It's time for justice. It's time for these two boys to come home. And you saying that how we can help you, how you can help us. See, the problem is that a lot of things that be addressed to you, they be addressed because the community is not involved within itself before it gets to you. Because a lot of things get resolved. So many times I've been in situations like this where they said, stop talking. I'm not going to stop talking. I haven't grieved for my daughter that lost my grandson, trying to nourish him, and also trying to maintain. It's very stressful. Now, like I say, that Shannon Taylor, they passed the case of Shannon Taylor. All of a sudden, by communicating with her, that made her conflict of interest. So she is passed it down to Cynthia McClellan, her senior assistant. Why not hear the case? Plenty of violations. This counsel, there's no way a counselor should end up with a family member that she's sitting back giving leadership to, trying to make him better. But you got my grandson, and I'm taking for crazy. The family, we've been fighting. I'm tired. So what is it, limitation? I must stay home. Because any reason there is, if I wasn't, we don't know what I would be at. But I live for him. And you know, each and every day, we are tired. And the only thing that stops us then, if the Commonwealth of America ain't going to do, they could do it, let's go to federal court. We there, that's what we don't mind going. $46,000 on some. Just people not following policies and procedures. And everybody stepping up. Sarah Link was in this town, Commonwealth or Assistant Commonwealth, in Brunswick County. She was here, but now she's back in the court. And that's the problem. There's no way. But she can't say anything. She said she never intended this to happen. She never intended. I'm like, and we made a left call for everybody to call Shannon Taylor all over the world and say, hey, here's the case. Go ahead on. Stop playing around with it. We didn't play around with it long enough. And I just want you, because you are my next step, I have followed the procedures that you have advised us to go through. And we won't just, we won't let go at home. We want my grandson at home so he can grow up with his brother.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm very sorry for your loss, and we will work to see if we can get it moving, and we probably need to put you in touch with some of the state general assembly members to see what they can do as well, and we will do that.
Yeah, through your office, you also connected me with Pamela Joy. She got the ball rolling.
Okay.
We at the last step. See, to push the button or we going back.
We will see what we can get done.
Thank
If
you.
we can get anybody else involved, we will.
Thank
Thank you, sir. All right, any more questions? Yes, ma'am. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see you up here. All right. Can you take her to the mic? Yeah, well, come to you next. I'm sorry. Right, him up here and then you in the back. Okay.
Well, I want to thank Ms. Cosby for
to thank Ms. Copeland and her staff for all their help. I had a VA issue with my sister-in-law who's on disability. Really appreciate it. Would encourage anybody to make use of that if you have any issues. It's that VA issue. Help us get through it. The issue, the United States dollar has always been the international standard. We benefited, all of us have benefited from that for years, at least since World War II, not before. And now, because a lot of the rest of the world thinks we've lost our minds, and we are aligned with Putin. We are threatening, our administration is threatening to fire the Fed chief. That's not good for business. And what my concern is about the value of the U.S. dollar. And the rest of the world matters. And it used to be what was the safest place to put your dollars. And this is what finances our data, these T-bills. And we are no longer that repository. And it bothers me that the other part, that what used to be the Republican Party, I can't recognize it anymore. And are they intimidated? I watched Senator Murkowski from Alaska the other day, and she was just shaking. It seemed that she wasn't just worried about losing an election. And I read that in a Liz Cheney book a couple of years ago, that other Republicans would tell her that they were afraid to do the right thing because they were afraid for their families.
Yeah.
So we're talking about intimidation. And I just wondered how real that is, but also how concerned are you about where the dollar is going and how
I am very concerned. To your point, the reason Trump pulled back on the reciprocal tariffs was because so many foreign countries started selling their treasury bonds, particularly Japan, and they knew that that was very bad. But the rest of the world has lost a lot of confidence in the United States. Everything from our treasury bonds to our allies. And that's very dangerous for our world. There are a lot of Republicans, but they're also starting to quietly, somewhat tentatively, and in some cases boldly fight back. And that gives me hope, because at the end of the day, they need to be beholden to the people, not to Donald Trump. And so, John Bacon, who is a Republican, I think, from Nebraska, he's called for Hegseth to resign. Jennifer Kiggins and Rob Whitman signed on to a letter saying they wouldn't support Medicaid cut. You're starting to see them speak out. But they are very afraid and intimidated. Not only that they're going to lose an election, but that they could lose their life. That's how you end up with an authoritarian dictator. I remind everybody, Hitler got elected. Hitler got elected. Now, I have faith in the American people, and I have faith in our courts, that the two of them are going to be the final backstop, and that we will celebrate 250 years of this country and not mourn that we didn't make it. But it's all hands on deck, and we all have to come together and say, we value American values as embodied in our Constitution, as embodied in the Declaration of Independence. And I remind my colleagues every day, we all signed that, swore on God. That's right. To preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States from all enemies, foreign and domestic. And if that means
funding cuts that are made, especially to historic sites, parks. We have the Iron Bridge. It's been out for a long time.
That's right.
It cuts off a lot of elementary school students. It makes their commutes of more than 45 minutes to an hour sometimes. Is there any way you can tell our community if that will ever be fixed? Or was that part of the cuts and we just need to get used to it for the work? That's the first thing.
I think is that a local or state?
It's a historic landmark.
Okay, so that was not part of the recent cuts, but I will work with the board of supervisors to see what we can do to get funding to fix it.
That was the first question I had.
So it sounds like VDOT is working on it, and so we'll work with them to make sure that that's happening.
Second question. Brunswick County is not necessarily a wealthy county, but we're an important county.
Amen.
And we don't have a lot of options when it comes to broadband or internet. And there are a lot of us that are educated, we are empowered, and we can make a difference in our communities if we have better broadband, better internet, and it gives us more growth and opportunity for our children. We don't have options. You're part of energy, you said. What can we do about it?
Thank you for that question. There in the 117th Congress, they passed two bills that both included funding for broadband deployment, to put the facilities in the ground to get more broadband out into areas that are either unserved or underserved. And I believe Brunswick has gotten grants already, but there are a number of grants that are supposed to start rolling out next year. And I'm fighting to make sure that program continues unchanged. The Secretary of Commerce wants to change it so that a different technology will be used that, in my opinion, is not as reliable as the fiber that the Act prefers. And so I'm fighting against changes to that, and I'm fighting to make sure that we continue that funding so that every community in America first gets connected, that they have access to affordable and reliable broadband. And I am fighting for that.
Thank you.
Okay, we got one more.
My question is, what can we do about spam calls? I'm tired. I spoke to a lady, she said, talk to your congressman. I mean, they even got me today with VCU help. They said they was a hospital. Right.
You mean the fraudulent ones or the? That's a good news, bad news answer, actually. The Federal Trade Commission, which is also under Commerce and Energy, they're supposed to enforce fraud laws that against spammers that use the phones for that. They're facing layoffs too. And so we're fighting against that to make sure that we've got the people who can prosecute them. But give Elizabeth, who handles the FTC, give her your information and we'll help follow up on that.
I did at this point to make sure I wasn't the only one.
No, I think we got one more question. Okay. I'm gonna stay here till I get all your questions. I know my staff didn't want me to say that. They can
We can't hear you, Kate. Hold on. I can't use my cheerleader voice.
It goes back to that first question you said about due process. I don't know how many of you watched the inauguration. I didn't, but I watched Rachel Maddow. Bless your heart. But if you notice, And we asked about what will be done about President Trump if he doesn't follow court orders. He never put his hand on that Bible. He never did. He never touched it. So therein lies your answer. When the other Republicans got into bed and Satan, that's what they did.
Well, whether he put his hand on it or not, he took the oath, and we're gonna hold him to it. And I think, I was sitting in the back, so I couldn't tell. I was there, I was there, because it's my job. And I'll kind of close with this, as I sat in that rotunda on Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday, I could not help but think of the last question that Dr. King spent the last year of his life pondering the question, where do we go from here? Chaos or community? And ladies and gentlemen, chaos has been unleashed.
Yes.
But I am focused every day on building community. Fighting chaos and building community. Because it is the honor of a lifetime to represent you in Congress. I work for you. And I am fighting every day to make sure that this community has schools that are good, that will give your children an opportunity to do better. Because that's what every parent wants. That you have access to quality, affordable health. That you have safe, healthy communities. And I'm going to fight to make sure that your rights are protected. Because that is what I swore. I did put my hand on it. And as a preacher's kid, I take that oath very, very, very seriously. So I thank you for giving me the honor of representing you. I thank you for coming out tonight. You could have been anywhere, but you came here. That shows that you care about your community. If I or my staff can ever do anything to help you, please get a constituent brochure so you know how to get in touch with our office. And follow what I'm doing, because I'm doing for you. Thank you all very much.
Thank you. Another hand. I know everybody's trying to leave, but give us just 1 second. We're going to close on this one.
And we just want to thank each and every one of you all for showing up tonight. We have other people here from other counties. I know we have Greensville. Any Greensville people, please raise your hand. Mecklenburg, any other localities that I might not have called, what county? Dinwiddie. We thank you all for coming. We appreciate you coming because this is not a Brunswick issue. This is an us issue. And we didn't want this meeting to be a town meeting of party, but a meeting of issues. And we want to thank you, Congresswoman McClellan, for making that a point. And we thank you so much. The issues are the issues. But we have someone here that can answer your questions. I want to just give one more statement on broadband, because all my colleagues were looking at it. Broadband in Brunswick County, we do have River Street that is installing broadband, so that is moving to answer that question. So we're hoping that we have broadband, the southern end, we had Empower working with that to make sure we get all of those rural areas, more rural areas covered with broadband. So that is a priority for Brunswick County local government, and we're working that way. But we just wanted you to know, when you see those trucks, you see the fiber going into the ground, we're working to make sure everyone gets broadband. Also, there were a couple of county individuals that were out there working, and I couldn't see them. But I also want to recognize Mr. Mason, one of our maintenance individuals that have been working with us diligently. And I also believe I left out Felicia right here in front of me. Just wanted to call you by name as well. So thank everyone for that. We have, on behalf of our board, just a small presentation to Congresswoman McClellan, and I'm going to ask Vice Chair Tyler, if you would, to get the plant off of the podium right behind you. The large one. I needed mustard. Ms. Gilliam and I called her and we need them, right? On behalf of Brunswick County Board of Supervisors, Brunswick County citizens, Mecklenburg, Dinwiddie, everyone that's here, we want to say we appreciate you coming tonight. We thank you so much for addressing the issue. And this lady has her boots on the ground. Let's give her a hand. We appreciate it. Thank you so, so much. Thank you. At this time, board members, I will entertain, if there's nothing else to come before the board, I will entertain a motion to adjourn. We have a motion by Mr. Tyler, second by Ms. Gilliam for the adjournment of this town meeting.